in the time after King Arthur. Tintagel. Finally, they reach Tintagel and transfer the horses, water caskets, and themselves into Talieson's ship. It is now perhaps a ship of fools.
The shield of the golden chalice stays here. I shall use the shield of the white horse, the usual shield for jousting by any challenger who wishes to remain unknown.
The king makes his knight-errancy official. The squires spread forth the broad white sails of their youth, so exuberant, so sure that their lives will never fail, their broadswords yet so keen and bright. They are an inspiration even in their naivete. Lonely Tintagel, guardian of the coast and birthplace of Arthur, is left behind as they leave English soil on a short voyage to Ireland. For King Rory Moore was the last to see the Vikings flee to sea and may know their direction. To the land of Ire.
I can see a small one-man sailing craft pursuing us, but I'll say nothing to the squires for now. I wonder if and when they will notice.
The squires, however, do not notice the small craft. After half a day more, they do notice an approaching storm and call it to Percival's attention.
King, there's a storm approaching.
The king remains at Tintagel, squires. Watch your words or you'll give me away. I travel now as a knight-errant, not as king.
Percevale, a small craft, follows us to our rear. It is too far out to sea and much too small to survive the swells that will be generated by the upcoming storm.
Yes, Hargrave, I too, when I first spotted the craft, wondered who could be following us in such a hopeless pursuit. But I kept coming up with the same answer. Drop our sails and prepare to take Mary Gawain aboard. Knowing him, he is already quite seasick. We need his big heart and his experience. They say he has conquered all that faced him except matrimony and the sickness of the sea. It is still true, but I guess he endures the sea.
The old knight Gawain is taken aboard and still cuts a dashing figure.
Thank the gods I found you, boy, for I am the key to your journey. Merlin said that my last days would be happy, and joining 3 damn fools set to sail off the end of the earth must indeed mark the beginning of my last remaining days.
And so you have picked a good day, Gawain, for this is April Fool's Day. But your wife, Gawain, I promised her that you would stay home.
Yes, Percevale, I love her, but to love all of me she must let a part of me go. For a part of us all belongs to the world, to king and country, to personal growth and to adventure, to enjoy the pleasure and passion of existence. Now bring me aboard your skip before my tongue becomes even further entangled with such glib nonsense.
Irish Spring. After a rather short voyage, the haunting cliffs of the Emerald Isle come into glorious view. The winged musicians of spring fly out to meet the ship. It is a time of coming home for migratory birds and for men as well. Ireland is a joyous place, for the very lushness of the isle has entered the people's souls.
mother was Irish, my father was Celtic. She died some years after I left the woods. Nightly duties kept me from seeing her as often as was required. I never knew my father, he was slain before my birth. Nor could I be all things to Evie and Melody. The duties of kingship kept me from being fully theirs. But I suppose that we must all share love and adventure with everyone, as Gawain said, else we would certainly dry up from lack of diversity and stimulation. Now let us find good King Rory Moore and tighten our search pattern for Thorelf the Viking.
Two kings, a holy man, and an oracle. As they ride inland through rolling green hills, their path is soon blocked by a gathering in a meadow which overflows onto the road. They observe a man addressing the crowd and, growing curious, sit down to listen and soon ask about him. He is a great holy man called Patrick, another crack in the armor of the Dark Age. He speaks of goodness and charity among men, of its rewards for the doer, and he has penetrated the iron hearts of men and has become sort of a local hero. As he speaks, the roads suddenly fill with snakes leaving town for good. Rory Moore is among the crowd at the great happening. He recognizes the English king, but does not address him as such, for he notices the thin disguise. The two kings embrace, and Percevale inquires of the Viking pursuit.
When the Vikings were driven out of Britain, I put a garrison on shore and sea to ensure that they could not make a landing in Ireland. Nevertheless, they raided some villages, butchered some of our citizens, and I ordered pursuit to the very limit of the northern ice. For a week we pursued them, running far into strange and unknown waters. Simultaneously, both reached and discovered a land of ice, which, for lack of a better name, we called Iceland. Here the Vikings attempted a stand, but we bested over half of them. The other half, in just 3 boats, escaped to sea. Unfortunately, Thorelf was in one of them. However, the encounter with us delayed his departure for a large number of days.
And he was attended by 2 maidens?
Yes, how did you know? Anyway, this place called Iceland is a land of fire and ice to the northwest. The fire is volcanic and the ice is glacial. Let us keep its existence a secret. So, fearing that the Vikings would return and use Iceland as a base to raid us, I pursued the Vikings at sea. Then Thorelf did the unthinkable. He headed west, out into the open and unexplored sea towards the edge of the world. And I knew that all of his oarsmen would never be able to bring him back against the terrible westerly winds that blow there. So you see, Thorelf is as good as dead, and that your quest for him is surely over. You need go no further.
I make no such assumptions, Rory. I sail to Iceland on the morrow so as to make sure that I am assisted by the very same winds and currents that swept Thorelf into the unknown sea toward the edge of the world.
Well, if you must pursue, there are some fine sailing men here now who wish to pursue Thorelf, though as I said, I disallowed them. But they are yours now. I can spare but 5 of them.
The great holy man finishes speaking and Rory invites him over.
What advice do you have, Patrick, for those that pursue the devil into hell to destroy him?
Only God can guide you, my son. And beware the river of ice that pours down from the north. You will have to detour south around it, or you will not have a snowman's chance in hell. And Percevale, the world is round. Fear not the edge.
Journey to Iceland. It was a curious force that set sail for Iceland. The voyage takes several days, and the men spend the time keeping fit and telling stories of the sea. The ocean spray is cold and salty, and the men's very life rests in the caskets of fresh water.
We've seen giant fish in the sea up north, states one of the sailors. Monstrous forms that break out from underneath the sea and blow water from holes in their heads. Their numbers increase as one sails west into the great unknown sea.
Are you not afraid? Asked Bogar.
No, not anymore. Our life is on the sea, and yes, we were afraid to sail north before we discovered Iceland, for we had heard many strange stories of fire mountains and demons. But when we landed, we found it to be just another part of Earth.
And so Iceland is reached. The crew stays only long enough to restock supplies. Then they too do the unthinkable. They set sail for the open sea. 2 sailors refuse to go and are to be left behind. But as they look back, the flames from the volcano rise and scorch the skies, and the 2 sailors climb aboard.